Colonia Claudia Ara Agrippinensium was the Roman colony in the Rhineland from which the German city of Cologne developed. It was the capital of the Roman province of Germania Inferior and the headquarters of the military in the region. With the administrative reforms under Diocletian, it became the capital of Germania Secunda. Many artifacts from the ancient city survive, including the arch of the former city gate with the inscription CCAA, which is today housed in the Romano-Germanic Museum. Historical background: but they were wiped out in a war of reprisal carried out by Julius Caesar. In 38 BC, the Germanic tribe known as the Ubii, who inhabited the right bank of the Rhine, were resettled by the Roman general Marcus Vipsanius Agrippa in the lands in the Cologne lowland vacated by the Eburones. This brought the Ubii within Roman-occupied territory. The Ubii chose an island in the Rhine as the central location of their settlement area. The island was a natural rise that was protected from flooding. The location of the settlement no longer exists today, but it roughly comprises the area between the areas of the Heumarkt and the Altermarkt, sections of the old city of Cologne. The settlement can be dated by archaeological finds to the first half of the 1st century AD. By this time the typical Roman grid-style street plan was already in use. The settlement's assumed name is probably Oppidum Ubiorum. The Roman epoch of the history of the city of Cologne begins with this oppidum. During the rule of Augustus, the Ara Ubiorum was constructed within the city limits. This altar was possibly foreseen as the central place of worship for a greater Germanic province, which would comprise lands across the Rhine, which remained unconquered at this point. The noble Segimundus is mentioned as the priest of the Ara in the year AD 9. He was from the family of Arminius, leader of the Cherish. After Arminius a defeat of Publius Quinctilius Varus in the same year at the Battle of the Teutoburg Forest, the plans for a greater German province were largely set aside. However, the altar itself retained some of its importance, as the city is mentioned as Ara Ubiorum in many inscriptions. Between 9 and AD 30 the area of present-day Cologne was mainly a garrison. Legion I Germanica and the Legion 20 Valeria Victrix were stationed nearby. The place of the initial Roman castra was known as Apudaram Ubiorum. The headquarters of Germanicus were located in Cologne from AD 13 to 17, when he was recalled by Tiberius. After the Battle of the Teutoburg Forest, Germanicus made efforts to stabilize the border region and to plan and carry out new offensives against the Germanic tribes located on the right bank of the Rhine. With the death of Augustus in AD 14, the legions garrisoned in Cologne mutinied with the aim of establishing Germanicus as emperor. These legions probably united in mutiny with those from Vetera stationed at their summer garrison in Castrum Novasium. Germanicus, however, remained loyal to Tiberius, who was heir to the throne. He dissuaded the legions from declaring him emperor and at the same time placated the mutineers through generous concessions. Legio I was later stationed in Bonna and Legio 20 garrisoned Castrum Novasium near present-day Neuss. Promotion to Roman colony. Agrippina the Younger was born in AD 15 in Cologne. She was the daughter of Germanicus and the wife of the Roman Emperor Claudius. She succeeded in convincing Claudius to elevate her birthplace to Colonia Claudia Ara Agrippinensium. This gave Colonia the status of city under Roman law, and a Roman colony had many more imperial rights than an oppidum. At this time the city had some 30,000 inhabitants and became the administrative capital of Germania Inferior. Before this time it was not a province, but an occupied area controlled and administrated by the military. Until AD 70 the city had a strong city wall that was California, 8 meters in height and 2.5 meters wide. However, the remains of the Roman city wall that can still be seen today are from the 3rd century AD. The unwalled portions of the city were equal to a square kilometer. Its most important steles and grave goods are preserved in the Romano-Germanic Museum. the year of 4 emperors and Batavian revolt in AD 68. The death of Emperor Nero caused a succession crisis in Rome. This led to a civil war throughout the empire. The Roman Senate installed Servius Sulpicius Galba as emperor, but he was quickly murdered by another contender for the throne, Marcus Salvius Otho, who had the backing of the Praetorian Guard. Meanwhile, the legions stationed in Colonia called for their commander Aulus Vitellius to be crowned as emperor. Vitellius marched on Italy at the head of the better part of the Rhine legions, and defeated those troops at the First Battle of Bedriacum, in which Otho himself was killed. A power vacuum occurred on the now undefended Rhine border. The Batavians rose and advanced on the empire from the northeast of Germania Inferior. The majority of the inhabitants of Colonia remained Ubii, as they had not been fully Romanized. They quickly sided with the Batavians. However, when the Batavians demanded that the city wall be torn down, the inhabitants of Colonia again sided with the Roman Empire. Vitellius was overthrown 8 months later by Titus Flavius Vespasianus, whose troops feared reprisals for having previously recognized Otho as emperor. Vitellius was killed and his body thrown into the Tiber, capital of the province Germania Inferior, with the founding of the province of Germania Inferior under Domitian in AD 89. The commander of the legions of Lower Germania Colonia became the provincial governor, based in Colonia. In AD 80 a water supply was built, the Eiffel Aqueduct, one of the longest aqueducts of the Roman Empire, which delivered 20,000 cubic meters of water to the city every day. 10 years later, the Colonia became the capital of the Roman province of Lower Germany, Germania Inferior, with a total population of 45,000 people. The Rhine fleet was stationed south of the city at Altenburg. The fortress itself was destroyed in attacks by the Franks in AD 276. This area was later named Altenburg, from which come the present-day names Altenburger Wall and Altenburger Platz. With the elevation to provincial capital, Colonia was no longer a military base. The legions of the province were stationed in Veteratu near Colonia Ulpia Traiana, Novidium and Bona. The name of the city varied in usage over time. In the 4th century AD it was known as Colonia Agrippina, which was shortened to Colonia sometime after the 5th century. Late antiquity and the end of Roman rule in AD 260 Postumus made Cologne the capital of the Gallic Empire, which included the German and Gallic provinces, Britannia and the provinces of Hispania. The Gallic Empire lasted only 14 years. By the 3rd century, only 20,000 people lived in and around the town, as the city was badly affected by the crisis of the 3rd century. In AD 310, Emperor Constantine I had a bridge over the Rhine constructed. This was guarded by the Castellum de Vischer. In AD 321 Jews are documented in Cologne. When exactly the first Jews arrived in the Rhineland area cannot be established anymore, but the Cologne community claims to be the oldest north of the Alps. Colonia had to be temporarily abandoned in December 355 following a lengthy siege by the Franks. The archaeological strata of that time indicate that conquest and looting had catastrophic effects and the city lay in ruins. The remaining Roman forces only had sufficient resources to restore the barest necessities. The last dated reconstruction is from 392–393, when Arbogast, the Magister Militum of the western half of the empire, in the name of the emperor Eugenius, renewed an unspecified public building. The city finally fell to the Ripuarian Franks in AD 459. Two lavish burial sites near the cathedral date from this period of late antiquity.